Hi everyone, my name's MadMatt Lugos and welcome back to Death Stranding. So last time we spent the whole episode really on Amelie's beach before coming back. We learned about all the secrets, about the extinction entity, about Amelie's destiny, about her heart and Car and Bridget. And now we're back in the world of the living again. And Sam is kind of downtrodden, a bit bereft of hope, and we're going to have to go and take BB to put to rest, which is what the mission says. We've been told to take it to the incinerator, but Deadman has given us a little hint that no one will know where we are if we destroy our cufflinks. So we'll see what happens here, guys. Let's get going. Alright, guys. I just had to have a little break. I've been recording for 2.5 hours. Game. But I was going on for very extended periods, so we're going to the incinerator, and I've no idea with Unger the connections that they were making with Lisa Bridges, Sam Bridges. Are they implying that Unger is actually it's more to do with Sam? I don't know. Am I completely misinterpreting that connection? I don't know if that was something that's just implied slightly, and whether that... No, that can't be right. Because yeah, I don't... BB units can't grow up, can they? I don't know. We've got... Oh, I can't look in the menus, can I? I wanted to see, because we've got a bunch of stuff to read. So it looks like we just have to go to the incinerator. Be nice if we could drive there, but I guess not. So, yeah, sorry for when I was in that build-up to when Die Hardman was talking about when he broke down, I thought he was about to say that Unger might have been Sam's father somehow. That's why I said that, because it was a thought that went through my mind when Amelie said this. That's why I brought you and Clifford back together. So that's what they've implied, right? I'm not a million miles away. My head's just kind of swimming because I've been sat playing for so long thinking the end was about to come, and now I'm like, this is like hour number 3. I think that's what they were implying with the Lisa Bridges thing, right? And that because the chronology doesn't really line up, does it? In terms of the years that have passed, whereas you know the Bridge babies don't tend to last longer than a year, right? Are you sure that's right? So that means that Lou... I don't know, man. So we've had so many reports from like a year, you know, years and years ago, whereas Lou can only be between 6 to 12 months old at this point. And like they were saying about how Unger couldn't be Lou's father because he died a long time ago, right? And Die Hardman was a lot younger when he killed him. So I think when he was searching for BB, he might have just actually been looking for Sam. And Sam was a BB, and then when that BB was put to rest, Amelie rescued it on the beach somehow. I don't know, I might be misinterpreting it a little bit. Maybe I need to look back at what was said. Can't believe my controller keeps freaking out. I guess that means there'll be no BTs here, right? And was Deadman implying that we could get BB out of the container or not? Or whether he meant we could just disappear after having to put BB in the incinerator? Because I don't think there's any way for Lou to survive. I don't think BBs can grow up and live outside of the artificial womb that they're in, right? Yeah, I'm gonna have a think about that thing with Clifford and Sam. I might be completely wrong. Just it felt like that's what was being implicated. You know, when he said, "I thought you were Sam Strand, but it turns out you're Sam Bridges." And then his mother being called Lucy Bridges. That's what they're implying, right? I'm not a million miles away with that, am I? Just get worried that you're completely excuse me, that you're completely misinterpreting something. So it kind of seems like Sam has gone, like, in a negative way, has gone full circles. He's gone from being like a loner at the start who just wanted to live from day to day, who didn't really care about what he was doing or who he was connecting with, and then he gained fulfillment from connecting everybody, and now he's just gone back to being the lone wolf, really, hasn't he? Who doesn't want to be around anyone anymore because he sees the after losing Amelie maybe, and now potentially losing Lou as well.
I guess we're here. You still with me, Lou?
Poor thing was never truly alive. Not in this world, at least.
Thanks for everything.
This child's special. One of a kind.
A BB candidate.
Either that, or
A sacrifice.
a foundation. A bridge.
Brought you an astronaut. Mankind can go anywhere, even outer space. You'll be out of there in no time.
And the second all this is over, I'm gonna take you wherever you wanna go. Can I help you? Holy shit. John, is that you?
Captain, what are you doing here?
My wife's checked in. They don't want a repeat of last year.
The Void Out in Manhattan. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were the husband.
This isn't what we agreed on. You said you'd do everything in your power to save BB.
We are. But we cannot release your son just yet. Believe me when I tell you it's for the best.
This is a woman in a mask who's done nothing but lie to me.
I have a duty to protect our country. Lies are an unfortunate necessity.
The President gave me the highest level access privileges. I've used them to manipulate the security system. We have 5 minutes before it resets, sir. 5 minutes to talk. Off the record. Take BB and get out of this place. There's nothing I can do for your wife. I'm sorry. You were my commanding officer, but I swore an oath to the President to protect her and the country at all costs. Now, if she orders me to do something, I have to do it. I have to. But I served under you first. And your family doesn't deserve this. Any of this.
Why are you helping me? If they catch you.
Because you saved my life, sir. Again and again. When the brass sent us into the jaws of hell, it was you that brought us home. Back then, I thought I was invincible. I thought I was some kind of action hero. But I'm not the hero. You are, sir. You're the reason I'm still alive. And it's past time I paid that debt. They're moving your son to a new facility tomorrow. You'll never see him again. He'll serve as the foundation of a new communications network. A sacrifice for a nation that no longer exists. I wrote down everything you need to know. It was the only way to keep it off the system. Burn it when you're done. The rest is up to you, sir. I believe this belongs to you, sir. I can't terminate your wife's life support from inside her room. System won't allow it. So, this is the only other option. An alarm is set to go off if she flatlines. I've rigged the system to spoof her vitals. But you won't have long. 5 minutes, tops. Don't hesitate, sir. This is the only chance you'll get.
I'm sorry, Lisa. Don't worry. I'll take care of him. I promise you. I promise you. My animal, Lisa. I'm sorry. Bibi. Bibi. Bibi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Steady.
It's just the chronology of it that's I can't seem to get straight in my mind. How long ago was that? Die Hardman's a lot older now. He's got grey in his hair, grey in his beard. Could that be like 20 odd years ago? I don't want to do this, man. No alternative.
I just took your cufflinks offline. In that state, there'd be nothing to stop you from removing them. If you did, the UCA wouldn't know where you were or how to find you. You'd be invisible. When you use the incinerator, you'll be reconnected to the network automatically. You could try taking Lou out of the pod just to see what happens. But that would be in direct contravention of an executive order.
Oh. What are you playing at, Sam?
A purpose that cannot fulfill outside the pod. There is a 70% risk of catastrophic failure simply in removing it.
Oh, is this Lisa in the scene? Cliff. Should have kept that towel wrap for there's a silencer.
Freeze! Hey, put it down! Drop it! Put it down!
Back off. Back off!
Get up! Don't do it!
I'll handle this.
Hold your fire.
Thanks for trying, John.
Stop! Step aside, sir, or we'll be forced to open fire.
It's a dead end. He's trapped. Security will take it from here.
I'm sorry, Lisa. I screwed it up. I've ruined everything.
This room is off limits. No one goes in. But he's in there, sir. I saw him. You saw him wrong. Now check the other way. Go! Yes, sir.
No. Open it up. He's inside.
Move, dumbass.
BB. Don't worry. It's okay. I'll always be with you. See the sunset, the day is ending. Let that yawn out, there's no pretending. I will hold you and protect you. So let love warm you till the morning. When I found out I was gonna be a father, I was so scared. Scared of what it would mean. I had to be there for you and your mom, no matter what. I couldn't just go off and get myself killed anymore.
Get off of him! Now!
I had it all wrong. All wrong. Being a father didn't make me scared. It made me brave. I'm sorry. Sorry it took me so long.
Captain. Look at you.
Don't make the same mistake. Be yourself. Be free.
Oh my God.
Captain, I need you to hand it over.
Shoot him, John.
Let it go. Please.
Shoot him! I gave you an order. Shoot him!
You told me your name was Sam Porter. But you're Sam Bridges. My son. My bridge to the future. Without you, I was just like any other Cliff. A dead end. No way forward. Nothing but an obstacle. Looking on at the world people like you were trying to build. Dividing people was the only thing I was ever good at. But not you, Sam. You bring people together. You're their bridge to the future. And mine. Come on, Sam. Stand up.
Is this me?
Oh, God. Not BB2.
No, 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 no!
when Emily finds Sam on the beach.
Sam. There you are. You want to go home? Let's go home. It's okay. I know the way. There you are. Welcome back.
You understand his days as a BB are over, now that his connection to the other side has been severed.
It was me who cut the cord. So yes.
A deathless repatriate in the world of the living. Should we decommission him?
In a manner of speaking. Take him out of the pod. I'll raise him as my own.
Come on, Lou. Wake up. Come on, Lou, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Come on.
Wake up!
Wake up. Ew.
Every time we touch it shows war now.
Alright guys, I'm gonna let these play and then I'll share my thoughts
Like a broken
at the end.
the lack of something makes a sound. Next level trust is you. Next level trust is you. True love is endless. True love is endless. And life is such a wonderful waste of time. I wanna spend it with you. miss you. It's never trust issue. True love is life is such a wonderful waste of time. I wanna spend it with
Let's make a toast to the damned, waiting for tomorrow when we're played out by the band, drowning out our sorrows. What will become of us now at the end of time? We'll be fine, you and I. Let's draw a line in the sand, keep it straight and narrow. We had it all in our hands. We begged and then we borrowed. What will become of us all at the end of love? When we stopped looking up, you can take my heart and hold it together as we fall apart. Maybe together we can make a mark in the stars. We can
Okay, so yeah, that's how I've done it overall. I haven't worn out any footwear, didn't take too many tumbles. Yeah, I almost travelled 1,000 kilometers. 107 hours. God help me. Is there anything I've really failed out here? Supply requests, I guess that's a bit selfish. I know I was missing one prepper, but yeah, whatever. Okay, all the music in the world. Oh, the UCA's expansion has unlocked new interview data. Memories of Cliff. Episode 15, what the hell? Okay, so it's just a reset, I guess.
Sam. Blood collection complete. Thank you for your generosity.
Well, look who's awake. Morning, Sam. You'll be happy to hear your vitals have stabilized, and that you're well on your way to recovery. Not that it's your fault, but what I wouldn't give to trade places. We're all stuck in the president's office, working like dogs to get everything ready in time for the inauguration.
Right.
But at least one of us is still free as a bird. You should head out. Make the most of it. Could even do some orders if you wanted. Might do you good to get back in the game. You may recall it was raining buckets back when you left for Amelie's Beach. We took a real beating at the time, but we've done our best to service the structures and vehicles in the area. So you know, any cargo that was stored in your private locker at a damaged facility should have been transferred to your private locker here at this distro center. Anyway, busy or not, we'll still be on the end of the line if you need us. And if you want some alone time, we should be able to manage for now. Just make sure you're back in time for the big day, all right? See you then. Hey, Sam, you sure you don't have any unfinished business?
Okay, guys, I'm just going to interrupt myself a bit there. All I said there at the end was, you know, I was going to try and gather my thoughts and then do a separate kind of review video, but I've changed my mind. I want to just talk, maybe spend 30 minutes here at the end, just wandering around and just gathering my thoughts about the whole ending of the game, because it's such a long, uninterrupted period. I've just changed the colour of my outfit. It's red. I thought it was more orange. I wanted to have a more ginger outfit going. So where exactly are we? We're still at Capital Knot. Okay, so yeah, in terms of everything that we just saw really in the ending.
Beginning scan. Have a pleasant journey.
You know, about Amelie/Bridget being the beach. That's what I took from it. That the extinction entity really is the person who defines the whole extinction event. Only difference being that they were more of a split entity, with one living on the beach, one living in the Har and Kar had been split. So got to see a kind of a nice, complete ending, really, with Sam and Louise. Really kind of being not happily ever after, but they both lived and they will both live to see tomorrow. However, you know, much longer the human race gets to live on for. And the whole story being that kind of summary of that feeling of carrying on, really, is the kind of spirit of it, isn't it? Like in the face of death, in the face of extinction, and in the face of struggle, the decision should be to carry on, not to give in to the futility of it all.
Let's go.
And yeah, I got there in the end with Unger not guessing, but figuring out that he was Sam's father in the end, that all the flashbacks we'd been seeing to the BB in the pod was actually Sam. I did say very early on in the playthrough that I thought maybe Higgs is a grown-up BB, and that's why he was so angry at Bridges. And then I swear, I can't remember, I haven't checked, but I swear somebody in the comments said BBs can't grow up or something like that. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I was wrong. It was the whole premise. So
It's not so bad.
Unger got a nice little, a more poignant send-off in the Vietnam War section than I originally realised. But I kind of, they gave us enough clues in the end. I didn't get to it as early as you might hope to. And yeah, so overall, it was a great experience. I've just been surprised in general in terms of how much I've enjoyed the whole game, because like I said, I don't have anything against Kojima, but I haven't really played the MGS games other than 1 and 2. I only played them once. So yeah, you know, the whole game's not perfect, but it's an incredibly unique experience, incredibly unique, and the gameplay loop was just bizarrely addictive for me. It's not like this is the kind of thing I get addicted to in games, I don't think, but it was just enjoyable. It was relaxing. It made you think. It made you look at the world. You know, in that way, in terms of a gameplay loop, it was really well structured because it made you appreciate the world that the developers have created. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was no mini-map you were constantly staring at, and whenever you used the Odra deck, it was just look at the world even further, and it really made you appreciate everything they'd done. It made you look at the sky to see where there were black strands, where the weather was changing. It made you look at the terrain, made you look at everything around it, the structure of everything. And it was just a great world to live in, even though it was a world bereft of other people, which is so strange. Isn't that strange that it's such a nice world to exist in, to walk around and to be in, and there's no one there to keep you company? And that's what's fascinating to me. Is I'd just stand around in the mountains. I'd just stare at a waterfall or a river, and it never really got old. What I think I'll just do, I'm just going to fragile jump back to the central region. I might go and hang out by my favourite waterfall, and then talk a bit more with you. Alright guys, I'm at South Knot City. I've got my bright orange outfit and my bright orange bike because I'm ginger and everything should be orange. So, what was I saying? I was, yeah, just the whole experience really is, I've just really enjoyed it. I think I'll just go through the characters. I think, have a think about each one and their kind of character arc that we've been through. I have to say, Fragile was probably my favourite character. There was a lot of development, the kind of standoffish, prickly relationship at first, the kind of rumours about the role that she played in the terrorist attacks, and then I feel like her relationship with Sam really built up really well and really gradually, and then there was a real warmth between them come the end. I mean, Leah Seydoux, I love Leah Seydoux, so maybe I'm a bit biased, but I don't think so. I think that her character just kind of warmed up at a nice pace, and Unger was a character I never felt was that as malicious as it was perhaps perceived by everyone around us to be. You know, he felt like he was going through real pain and real anguish, and he wasn't following BB around, he was actually following Sam around, and there was a real sorrow to Unger's character throughout, I think, that came across really well. You know, we can't forget Die Hardman and his annoying, patronising advice. But, you know, I kind of went back and forth with him. At first, I kind of had a bit of sympathy towards him and the remorse that he had, but in the end, he just ended up looking a bit pathetic, really, didn't he? About how he never really took command over his own decisions, and he was just a kind of glorified puppet in the end. But yeah, so Die Hardman, I don't think he was ever meant to be anything more than that, really, you know. Amelie, I never felt much affection towards, but I suppose her relationship with Sam is built on a real moment of evil, I suppose, is one way of putting it. You know, the fact that she killed Clifford Unger and Sam in cold blood. I know that was Bridget, but they're one and the same person in a way, and Amelie was trying to atone for that. So their whole relationship was built on a lie. Like she was kind of like she was, you know, like she was like an evil person who's gotten into philanthropy. She was trying to help, but it was helping through doing. It was help based upon an evil deed, is all I'm trying to say. Suck it. Oh no. I'm sorry, baby. But I'm just trying to get to the waterfall, Louise. But yeah, so their relationship was built on this big lie, and she was just trying to make up for the fact that she'd done such a heinous, evil thing. And but she's the whole reason that Sam came to be. But on the other hand, Sam was kind of a tool for her to act against herself. So in a way, she was doing a good thing in a way. God, I've ruined this bike. But I wish it wasn't raining here. And I suppose then, judging from what Hartman had said, that all of, like, each extinction event had an extinction entity. They found all these creatures that had umbilical cords, so then they would have been the equivalent to Bridget, right? They were a creature within that era that was born, like, specifically with the purpose of ending everyone else. And that's what Bridget and Amelie were, but Amelie was acting against her destiny, really, to try and save everyone. But she wavered, and she knew that her destiny might get the better of her at some point, which is why she invested so much time in Sam in a way, besides the guilt she felt. I'm going to try and walk under this waterfall. I wonder if there's an Easter egg. You can't go in. An invisible wall. I'm shocked. Oh, that's kind of rubbish. Fair enough. I'll just stare at it. So all of the stuff Sam was doing was to counteract what she knew she would end up doing in the end. And then we've got Hartman, who was very interesting, very fascinating character. We didn't really get any resolution to him and his family, unfortunately, I don't think. But he had a good personality. He always had lots of theories that may or may not have been true about this Death Stranding in the past, about prior extinction events and extinction entities. And like I said, his character didn't necessarily have any resolution, but I really enjoyed Hartman. I actually ended up really liking Deadman, and Deadman I didn't really like at first, but I guess that's kind of the point of him. You know, he's kind of a bit of a personal space invader. But he was just because he was kind of desperate for friendship, I suppose. He never really felt alive, and because he said that he doesn't have a beach, he doesn't have a soul per se, that he never felt connected to other people, and we kind of gave him that connection with his conversations with Sam, and in particular when he had to look after Lou, he kind of felt human again, well, for the first time, really, and that turned into a nice relationship. They got a nice hug at the end, which I was glad they got to do. Fragile had a reputation restored as well, obviously. So yeah, a really interesting cast of characters. I feel like I've completely forgotten someone. So let's just have a look in our data logs. So yeah, Die Hardman, Deadman, Hartman, Mama, obviously, yes, Mama. So Malingan and Lochner that was probably the most emotionally affecting story in the game, just because it was such a tragic kind of relationship between, or a tragic way for her to die, because she did die there. And just the whole severing the connection between her and her baby was, yeah, it was very powerful. One of the more emotional moments in the game. So we've got some stuff from Hartman here that we haven't read. So about Sam's return. This is 1 week after, so around now. Sam has returned safe and sound. It had been about a month since he departed for Amelie's Beach. 30 days of relentless searching for us. Though for him it must have felt like an eternity. I cannot imagine the isolation and despair he must have been forced to endure, a suffering known only by Amelie and Bridget. Sam has told us about the extinction entity and how it granted humanity a reprieve, but beyond that, he's reluctant to speak. Well, we shall not put any pressure on him. Frankly, I expect we would struggle to comprehend anything he tells us. Suffice it to say that the last stranding has been avoided, even if its precursor has forever reshaped our world. Thousands and thousands of years from now, should intelligent life walk the earth and find our fossils, they will likely conclude that Homo sapiens died out in the sixth extinction. Perhaps if we're lucky, they may even find records we leave behind. Still, we cannot hope to guess how much they will understand about who we were. After all, their intelligence will not be like ours. Theirs will be a different understanding of the world, of the universe, different forms of existence, different conceptions of what it is to be alive. These invariably lead to different conceptions of what it is to die. But it matters not if they never understand who we were. All that matters, in my opinion at least, is that they know that we were here. Okay, so yeah, Hartman's recognising that we are going to go extinct eventually. But we just need to leave something behind, much like the fossils of the dinosaurs. Perhaps something a little deeper. Kipu means not in the Quechua language. Objects given this name were used in ancient Incan society to record and transmit information, and yes, Amelie just so happens to wear one. The Inca would pass Kipu from one place to another via a network of messengers known as the chasqui. You might be surprised at the complexity that can be communicated through a simple system of knots, and not merely numerical data. It is said that whole histories could be contained in these intricate webs. Some theories suggest that they were ascribed magical properties too. Certain combinations of knotted numbers were thought to encourage the dead to sleep peacefully in their graves, for example. Thus, we see that the Kipu is at once a tool for communication, storytelling, and ritual. Okay. So that's got more to it. The Kipu she was carrying. She's wanting the dead to, she's wanting people to die, and she wants them to sleep peacefully, and that's a symbol of that. About the Dreamcatcher. There's a psychological framework which posits that the human personality is comprised of various strands, our inner mind, our outer character. Each is a strand or thread, made up of yet smaller threads which intertwine with others to make us who we are. And in nurturing each strand, we become better people and inure ourselves against psychological harm. Or so the theory goes. As odd as it may sound, this is not an entirely dissimilar concept to the one which lies behind the most ubiquitous of Ojibwe artifacts, the Dreamcatcher. You've seen them before, yes? A woven web of threads said to protect the mind from harm by trapping nightmares, thus ensuring that only pleasant dreams pass through. It is no coincidence that these charms came to symbolize a pan-Indian movement of the 20th century. The many and varied Native American tribes strove to set aside their differences in order to foster a group identity. A singular dream, as such, it came to symbolize what made them one people, what united them. In essence, strands can represent that which makes us who we are, that which differentiates us from what we are not, and the bonds we share with one another. Okay, so yeah, Bridges staff stuff, I can read that in my own time. So we got more from Higgs's journal. So let's check these out. Writing year unknown. My first memory is of looking up at the ceiling of our shelter as a baby bawling my eyes out. All of a sudden, the hand of God comes into view, blotting out the steel sky. Daddy. Lifts me up, not gentle, but not hard, shouts some stuff, but it's all gibberish I can't make heads or tails of. He ain't my real daddy, though. That one died before I was born, and Mama soon after. A disease or something, I don't know. Her brother took me in, whisked me away from that shelter, reeking of piss and death, and brought me here, Daddy number 2. He never really took to it. He was an ugly, violent man full of anger with nowhere to go. Tried to love me in his own way, but I don't know if he ever had it in him. Daddy told me our shelter was our world, and I believed him. I grew up thinking no one but us two existed. Then, when I got a little older, I started asking questions. Simple questions about where the food came from, that kind of thing. Got smacked upside the head for my troubles, but try as he might, he couldn't beat the curiosity out of me. One day I peeked at his monitor. It was the first glimpse I'd ever caught of the outside world. I pestered Daddy about it, and you bet I caught holy hell for it. But I wore him down, and eventually he came clean and admitted there was a whole world out there, soaked to the bone by timefall and overrun by demons that'd eat me up. It occurred to me later that this fear-mongering probably got my mama killed, filling her head with his hysterics about the dead walking the earth, and the only safe haven being 6 feet under. Okay, so we've got an abusive childhood for Higgs. Okay, so the next piece of the journal. My mama entrusted me to her brother, so he had no choice but to raise me best he could. Say what you will about the man, but he had himself a sense of obligation. He might even have harboured a measure of affection for me, but whatever was in his heart he expressed with his hands, his fists. Any hope and dreams he might have had for me, for us, fell by the wayside pretty quick. We slipped into a daily routine of warnings to stay the fuck inside, bookended by beatings to drive the point home. I think sometimes he sincerely believed that that was the only way to protect me, but I wasn't about to go on living like that. Can't cage a young boy's spirit. If I'd stayed, I'd have died, body and soul. I had to get out, started hoarding supplies in secret, but he caught on. That was the beginning of the worst beating yet. He was grabbing anything and everything within reach that could be used as a weapon, tearing our shelter apart, smashing furniture, all the while wailing like a wounded animal, tears streaming down his face. He pinned me down, tears and spit flying in my face as he blubbered on about me not understanding his pain, his fucking pain. His hands round my neck, darkness creeping in from the corners, his fucking pain. The kitchen knife in my hands, in his neck, his hands, his fucking hands. They grow weak, and he just deflates like a balloon all over me. I roll him off, and I look into his glassy eyes, filled with his fucking pain and our steel sky. So he killed his father as well. I didn't know how to feel after. I spent the night next to him, my mind a blank canvas. Yeah, so would that have caused a void out? In the back of it, nagging my voice, saying I had to dispose of it. Daddy hadn't told me much, but he told me about how bodies go necro, pop BTs and all that. Made for a good bedtime story, so I knew what would happen if I let him lie. Death had come into our home and turned it into a crater. His stink was starting to fill up the room. I had to deal with him, had to get him out. Get him as far away as possible, so I got my arms under his and dragged him out into a new world with a new sky. Bigger, emptier, bare rock dotted with bushes all around, mountains off in the distance, chiral clouds hugging their peaks. My knees started getting wobbly, and the world began to spin. But I knew the clock was ticking, eyes down, got to deal with Daddy. I'd been moving at a steady clip when I saw it, chiralium coming off Daddy. Little motes of shimmering light. I was out of time. I laid him down in the dirt, but before I let go I had a vision. My hands, still resting on his body, disappeared, vaporized into a fine mist, puff. And then I felt another presence, a BT coming slow but sure, like it had been walking since the beginning of time. Daddy's keeper. That was the first one I sensed, but it wasn't the last. For a long while after I remained awakened to their presence. A sixth sense, Daddy's parting gift to me. Over time it would fade, but I knew how I got it and I knew how to get it back. All I needed was another body, and I got real good at making them. Death for life, theirs for mine, a fair exchange. Okay, so violence, it's just like violence begets more violence, really, isn't it? He killed his father, and that developed his ability to sense BTs, and only more death and more murder and more bodies would further develop his power. Okay, I think that's it for stuff we probably want to read. Yeah, so that's pretty much my thoughts on the game. On the ending, I mean, it's tough because the ending is so long and it's so uninterrupted. It's difficult. That's why I felt so drained afterwards, because it's a solid, like, at least 3 hours of just like a film. But there's some player agency in it, but there's no. I mean, the last boss fight is the big giant whale BT monster thing that you fight before you get to Central Knot City, and after that, there's very little player choice involved, right? So I guess that's because it wasn't broken up, but we got a sense of why Amelie was doing what she was doing, about her destiny and her fighting against her destiny and her putting this whole plan in place to try and save humanity, but at the same time she was trying to complete her destiny. She wavered, and Sam was her failsafe, and yeah, I've really enjoyed the experience, guys, I have to say. I mean, just in terms of the design of the game, like I mentioned that picture of Kojima with Miyazaki, and, you know, I know I always sometimes say it as a joke, because so many, like, gaming journalists compare things to Dark Souls. And this is nothing like Dark Souls, but I think it has a few of the Miyazaki design elements. I think that Kojima's taken some stuff from other games, you know, learned lessons from them, not copied or anything. But I think the one thing that's in all of the Miyazaki games and all the Soulsborne games is the idea of character death being woven into the story, so that the lead character never really dies. So, you know, like in Dark Souls, you're an undead, so you're undead anyway. So every time you die, you come back to life. Each time, like in Sekiro, there's the undying to do with Lord Kuro and his power, the dragon's heritage, which is why you always come back to life every time you die. And there's that same concept with Sam being a repatriate, right? It's woven into the story. So every time you die in the story, it's not like a reload. It's actually, you go to the seam, you find your body again, and you just wake back up. So that element, that feels very like Miyazaki element, which I really liked, like writing the death of your character, which is going to happen, into the story. It's a really interesting concept. The whole kind of asynchronous multiplayer element where players are kind of helping you, giving you directions in that indirect way, not indirect, but in a non-present way. We've seen Dark Souls influence a lot of stuff in Miyazaki influenced a lot of stuff in a lot of ways like that, with the summonings, with the messages written on the ground when you play online. But this is in a more helpful way in this game, in a more community-driven way, which ties into the spirit of the story again, which is a really good way to do it, to make it, because the whole game's about connecting people, so it makes you feel connected to other players without it feeling intrusive. Although I have to say, sometimes I would have to delete a lot of structures because they kind of got in the way in some places. A lot of bridges, a lot of bright purple trucks parked outside prepper stations. But, you know, it worked really well for the most part. It helps you get through the game. I don't think it makes... I know I've said it a few times, oh, I'm cheating by doing this. I wasn't being entirely serious, but I still played the game for a long time. I've got over 100 hours clocked. And, you know, it really helped with that. I think one of you said in the comments that you played through it the first time. Oh, no, you didn't. I think I read somewhere that somebody played it through offline for the first time, so that would extend the playtime like exponentially. But yeah, I think the gameplay, the traversal, everything works really well. All the different systems, whether it's the degradation, the stability, the carry weight, the time for degradation, you know, the gloves, the blood, but everything. You pick it up gradually. It feels like it's a bit over tutorialized at places, but I think it has to be to get you into the systems. None of it feels overtly complicated. I think once you get introduced to most of the stuff once, it's just kind of in the back of your mind and you don't have to worry about it. And because the UI, you can do most of the swapping in and out like in game. It's not like, say, No Man's Sky, where you have to go into like a stupid menu constantly to manage stuff, and it feels really annoying doing it. I don't think it really didn't affect me that much. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, it's a very unique experience, and I think it took some influence. I was talking to one of you in the comments about the Horizon Zero Dawn influence. I think the scale of the game, maybe that took some influence from Horizon Zero Dawn. The snow area and the mountains in particular, because that was something I distinctly remember from Horizon being just so awe-inspiring, was just the scale of it all, the verticality, the mountains, the deserts, the snow, the jungles were just stunningly beautiful. And while this didn't have the kind of lush greenery sections, it's just because it's a different structure due to the circumstances of the world, you know. But the mountains, the skyboxes, the weather was really something to behold. I don't think I've seen weather like in the clouds, the tornadoes that would form just before Unger would have a section where we'd fight Unger on his beach. The Northern Lights that were just before the ending. Everything was just so beautiful, and because of there being no mini map and you always looking for ways to traverse the world, you really drunk it all in, and it was just a really nice place to be. Even though the world is oppressive, there are mules, there are BTs, the weather degrades all your equipment, there's deep water, deep snow, all that stuff. It still feels like a nice place to be and explore, and almost sometimes the journey is better than the destination a lot of the times. Not necessarily in terms of the main story, but definitely in terms of like the prepper stations. A lot of the preppers you didn't really care about the interactions with. A few of them had interesting backgrounds, like they had more of a story for like the junk dealer and the Chiral artist. But a lot of the others, they were quirky, but they didn't have much else to them. So the journey to get to them was really where the personality of the game was. And then the main story elements, obviously, as well. I think, just in terms of, not that these aren't negatives, but I think that there are things that didn't necessarily gel as well. And I think that some of the elements of the overall game design don't necessarily gel with Kojima's style. I think Kojima, in general, as a game director, as a story director, he wants to be in control at all times. He wants to tell you his story, and he doesn't really want you to deviate from that. So that's where I think that at times the story feels at odds with the fact that this is an open world game. it doesn't really structure the story and progression like an open world, like you'd want an open world game to. So the game kind of funnels you towards certain areas, and you kind of not punished, but it's very like when I went into the mountains early, I couldn't get through because I didn't have any of the equipment. And when you get to the mountainous, when you get to Mountain Not City, you get to that region, you get all the gear that helps you climb over the mountains. And I feel like they should have allowed you a bit more freedom with exploration and finding preppers, finding equipment. So yeah, I think that the open world design is a bit at odds maybe with Kojima's style. I think he maybe wants to create a slightly more linear story experience, more crafted experience, which is fine. I love experiences like that, but when you do it in an open world like this, it makes it a little bit more frustrating sometimes. So I feel like he maybe needs to adapt his storytelling if he's going to do another open world game where there's more availability for you to explore and go to places early, some places late, and discovering things. I think that the story kind of wants you to do it in a certain way. Like when I found Hartman's lab, didn't get to talk to the guy. He's in the room next door, don't get to talk to him. That kind of thing. Yeah, I feel like you should get a bit better at that. And I suppose the only complaint with the really long cutscenes, particularly at the ending, I feel like he needs to figure out a way of putting dialogue options into some sections. It doesn't necessarily have to be dialogue options that affect the ending, affect the story, or affect anything really. Just something that pulls the player back in and makes them feel like they have a bit of agency in the scene. I think would break those sections up a bit instead of you kind of absorbing these static dialogue sections, because in most of the dialogue sections there's like I think it's a kind of rule, not a rule, but like a rule of thumb in filmmaking, that if you ever want to do like a big exposition section, the characters need to be moving somewhere. And video games tend to break this. I know video games are different, obviously. They tend to break this by often characters are static talking to each other. But that's usually because sometimes the player will have an influence on what's said. So I think he needs to maybe take one hand off the reins, not both, but one, and try and incorporate some sort of dialogue choice system into his games. Like I said, it doesn't need to be like Skyrim or The Witcher 3 or whatever else where the dialogue choices have a major effect on the story. But like in Horizon Zero Dawn had dialogue choices that didn't really influence things too much, you know? I don't think it really matters which dialogue options you pick. The story's going to be the same. It just means that the cutscenes get broken up a bit and you get pulled back in for a second. Maybe if you weren't paying attention for 5 minutes and then all of a sudden the game's like, oh, you need to say something. Now that just kind of pulls you back in. It can be just a simple device that doesn't necessarily have to affect the story in a branching path style. Like a game like The Witcher 3 does, where endings and outcomes are drastically different depending on your dialogue choices. It doesn't have to be like that. But maybe like a more subtle version of what Horizon did. Horizon was a bit. I don't like it when they tell you one's angry, one's loving, one's intelligent. That's silly. Just give us the options and we'll make our minds up. So yeah, I think just a bit more adapting to the open world format. I don't know what MGS5 was like. I can't imagine it had much player agency in terms of story choice. But yeah, I think that's the areas he could improve for whatever he does next. I know there's been rumors of Kojima work of PlayStation and Konami, you know, about their relationship softening, about maybe them getting the rights back to Metal Gear. I really don't want to see him go back. I like the fact that this is a self-contained game. You know, it's like I said about Miyazaki. Miyazaki seems like he's not making a series of games anymore. Dark Souls was what it was, but now he's going to do individual games that have their own self-contained story and then move on. No sequels, no prequels, no follow-ons, and just move on. And I really like that. This was a self-contained story that we do not need a sequel to. And it's, you know, it's a vast game that I've spent over 100 hours in. That I don't know how replayable it is. I think the replayability is within your first playthrough, if that makes sense, because there aren't dialogue options and stuff that would make you want to play the story again, besides experiencing some aspects from the perspective of knowing who Unger is and Bridget and Amelie, their true identities. Maybe it'd be interesting from that point of view. But yeah, it's a self-contained story, so I hope he moves on to a brand new IP next. He's probably, they've got this engine, they've got all the assets, they could make something entirely new again. I'd love to see him move on to something new. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this experience, guys. I've enjoyed talking with you along the way. Let me know your thoughts about the ending, about what you think about the game in general. I still haven't got Lucy's reports, which is a little annoying. I don't know what else we're going to learn about Lucy. One of you tell me if they're worth getting, and then maybe I'll play. I've got I've just started Final Fantasy, so I'm playing that at the minute. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed Death Stranding, guys. Please let me know any recommendations that you have. I have got playthroughs going on at the minute, but if you think that there are other certain games maybe like this, or like games you think someone like me would like, maybe let me know, and I'll see you somewhere along the way. So I hope you've enjoyed this whole series, guys, as much as I have. Leave me a like on the video if you've enjoyed the ending here. We got a nice cathartic ending after Sam lost his child. He was about to lose another one after losing his kind of surrogate mother and his real father. A lot of loss, but in the end, Lou survived. So a lovely ending to a great experience. So I'll maybe see you in another playthrough along the way. Just remember, everybody, never trust and on crate. Right, I'll see you next time.